You walk into a pharmacy. You hand over a prescription. The pharmacist tells you the price is $400. You pay. The pharmacy keeps a fraction of that money. The company that actually manufactured the pill keeps another fraction. But a vast, invisible river of cash flows somewhere else entirely. It flows into the accounts of an entity you have never heard of, a company you never hired, and a middleman you cannot fire. They are called pharmacy benefit managers, or PBMs. The United States prescription drug market is a multi-billion-dollar labyrinth, and PBMs are the architects. Their origin story is perfectly rational. Decades ago, health insurance companies realized they were being crushed by rising drug prices. They needed negotiators. They needed bulk buyers who could force pharmaceutical giants to lower their costs. So they hired PBMs to police the system. The mandate was simple: drive prices down. But economics is the study of incentives, and incentives have a habit of mutating. Today, a small handful of intermediaries stand between drug makers, insurers, pharmacies, and millions of American patients. They negotiate the rebates. They control the formularies.
They decide which pharmacy you are allowed to visit. And through mechanisms like spread pricing and vertical integration, the very entities hired to control prescription costs can now profit directly from the flow of those exact same dollars. The core paradox is terrifyingly simple. If a middleman takes a percentage of the savings, they need the initial price to be high. If a middleman owns the pharmacy, they are negotiating with themselves. This is not a malfunction of the American medical system. This is the system operating exactly as its hidden contracts dictate. How did a mechanism designed to save patients money evolve into an oligopoly that dictates the terms of survival for independent pharmacies and multinational drug producers alike? The answer lies in the math of the spread. To understand the invisible architecture of American medicine, you must first look at a piece of paper, the formulary. A formulary is simply a list of prescription drugs covered by a health plan. But in the hands of a PBM, the formulary is a weapon of mass negotiation. Before the 1980s, prescription drug coverage was a relatively straightforward affair. Patients bought pills and insurers reimbursed them. But as pharmaceutical companies began releasing waves of expensive, patented blockbuster drugs, insurance funds began to bleed. A single health plan lacked the leverage to demand a discount from a global pharmaceutical giant. If an insurer threatened to drop a popular cholesterol medication, patients would simply revolt. Enter the pharmacy benefit manager. The PBM approached the insurer with a compelling proposition. Outsource the management of your prescription benefits to us. We will pool your patients together with the patients of 50 other insurance companies. Suddenly, we represent millions of lives. With that immense leverage, we will walk into the pharmaceutical company boardrooms and demand massive discounts.
If the drug maker refuses, we simply remove their pill from our formulary and replace it with a competitor drug. The drug maker loses millions of customers overnight. The threat worked. As the Government Accountability Office has documented, PBMs effectively administer prescription benefits and actively negotiate rebates from drug manufacturers. They provide a structural counterweight to the pricing power of pharmaceutical companies. By pooling demand, PBMs force drug makers to compete for placement on the coveted formulary. The manufacturer offers a rebate, a retroactive discount paid after the drug is dispensed, to secure a favorable tier on the list. A Tier 1 placement means a low copay for the patient, guaranteeing massive volume for the manufacturer. For years, this mechanism was hailed as a triumph of market efficiency. The PBM extracts the rebate, passes a portion of it back to the health plan, and the health plan uses those savings to lower premiums for everyone. Cost control achieved. But an economic mechanism is only as pure as its transparency. The contracts binding the PBM, the insurer, and the manufacturer are heavily guarded trade secrets.
The exact size of the rebate is hidden. The amount the PBM keeps is hidden. The criteria for formulary placement are hidden. And in that darkness, a new business model was born. The PBM realized that its power did not just lie in negotiating lower costs. Its power lay in its total control over the flow of patients.
The formulary dictates which drug a doctor prescribes because it dictates which drug the patient can afford. Therefore, the PBM controls the market share of every pharmaceutical company in the country. But the PBM does not manufacture drugs. It does not diagnose illnesses. It does not dispense pills. It produces nothing. It simply operates the toll booth. And as the decades passed, the toll booth operators realized they could charge both sides of the bridge. They began to realize that a high list price with a massive negotiated rebate was actually more profitable than a low list price with no rebate at all. The incentive to lower the actual sticker price of the medicine evaporated, replaced by an incentive to maximize the spread between the fictional sticker price and the hidden negotiated reality.
The cost control mechanism had discovered a way to monetize the very inflation it was hired to suppress. The mechanics of this profit engine rely on two distinct financial maneuvers: rebate retention and spread pricing. Imagine a drug manufacturer sets the list price of a medication at $1,000. The PBM tells the manufacturer, "We will only put your drug on our preferred formulary if you give us a 40% rebate." The manufacturer agrees, sending $400 back to the PBM. The PBM then turns to the health plan, the entity that actually pays the bills, and passes along $300 of that rebate. The PBM quietly pockets the remaining $100 as a fee for its negotiating prowess. Multiply that $100 by millions of prescriptions, and the revenue becomes staggering. But this dynamic creates a bizarre incentive structure. If a competing manufacturer offers a chemically identical drug for a flat price of $600 with no rebate, the PBM makes nothing. The health plan would pay the exact same net amount, $600, but the PBM revenue stream dries up.
Therefore, the PBM has a structural incentive to prefer the higher-priced drug, because a higher sticker price allows for a larger dollar value rebate, which allows for a larger retained slice. The patient, whose copay or deductible is often calculated based on the artificially high list price, pays the penalty. The second maneuver is spread pricing. This occurs at the pharmacy counter. When you fill a prescription, the PBM acts as the clearinghouse. The PBM charges the health plan a specific amount for the drug, say $50. But the PBM only reimburses the local pharmacy $30 for dispensing that exact same pill. The PBM keeps the $20 difference. This is the spread. The health plan does not know the pharmacy was only paid $30. The pharmacy does not know the health plan was charged $50. Only the PBM sees both sides of the ledger. The GAO has documented state regulators pushing back against these arrangements, noting that spread pricing directly affects both drug pricing and pharmacy reimbursement. Independent pharmacies find themselves squeezed, reimbursed at rates that sometimes fall below the actual wholesale cost of acquiring the drug.
They lose money on every prescription filled, while the PBM logs a profit on the spread. If the pharmacy complains, the PBM points to the contract. If the pharmacy refuses the contract, they are locked out of the PBM network, instantly losing access to a massive percentage of their local customers. The intermediary dictates the terms of survival. By 2023, the scale of this intermediary power reached historic levels. The Federal Trade Commission released an interim staff report documenting the sheer concentration of the market. According to the FTC staff analysis, the 6 largest pharmacy benefit managers in the United States handled more than 90% of all prescriptions. 90%. 6 companies stand between 330 million Americans and their medicine. But the FTC documented something far more structurally significant than mere market share. They documented the final evolution of the PBM business model: total vertical integration. The intermediaries did not just control the flow of money anymore, they bought the destinations. Over the last 2 decades, major PBMs merged with the largest health insurance companies in the country. Simultaneously, they acquired or built their own massive mail-order pharmacies and specialized pharmacies. The traditional boundaries of the healthcare market collapsed into integrated corporate silos. An insurer, a PBM, and a pharmacy are now often the exact same company. This integration fundamentally alters the economic reality of the prescription drug chain. When a PBM negotiates with a pharmacy network, it is no longer an objective administrator seeking the best network rates for a client. It is a competitor. The PBM sets the reimbursement rates for independent, unaffiliated pharmacies, while simultaneously owning the mail-order pharmacy competing for those exact same patients. The conflict of interest is structural and immense. The FTC staff report highlighted concerns that integrated PBMs can steer patients to their own affiliated pharmacies, penalizing patients who choose to use unaffiliated local businesses. They can mandate that expensive specialty drugs, which carry massive profit margins, must be filled exclusively through the PBM wholly owned specialty pharmacy. The independent pharmacy is systematically starved of high-margin prescriptions and left with low-margin, under-reimbursed generic fills. And if the independent pharmacy goes bankrupt, the integrated PBM absorbs their former patients. The cost control mechanism has become a market consolidation machine. It is crucial to preserve the factual boundaries of these findings.
The FTC interim report relies on staff analysis, and the agency uses qualified language regarding incentives and potential effects. A PBM contract does not automatically raise every single patient price on every single drug. In many high-volume generic drug classes, PBMs do successfully drive down costs for plan sponsors. The GAO independently affirms that PBMs administer benefits and negotiate rebates that can reduce net spending for insurers. But the macroeconomic contradiction remains unresolved. An industry designed to lower prices has overseen an era of unprecedented drug price inflation and pharmacy closures. The integrated PBM sits at the center of a black box. They charge the insurer, who is often their corporate parent. They reimburse the pharmacy, which is often their corporate subsidiary. They extract rebates from the manufacturer based on formularies they solely control. The spread is internalized. The margins are obfuscated. The pricing signals that normally allow a free market to function, knowing what a product actually costs to produce, distribute, and sell, are actively suppressed by the architecture of the contracts.
You cannot have a rational market when the price of a good depends entirely on which intermediary is processing the transaction. The PBMs argue they are the only shield protecting consumers from the unchecked greed of pharmaceutical manufacturers. They argue that without their aggregate negotiation power, drug makers would raise list prices to infinity. But the drug makers counter that they are only forced to raise list prices to astronomical levels because the PBMs demand ever larger rebates just to grant patients access to the medicine. It is an escalating arms race of artificial numbers. And caught in the crossfire is the patient at the counter, paying a deductible based on a fictional sticker price, handing their money to a local pharmacy that is losing money on the transaction, while the invisible intermediary logs another record quarter.
This is the ultimate paradox of an outsourced market. When a system becomes too complex for its original participants to navigate, they hire a navigator. But if the navigator compensation is tied to the complexity of the route will never become simple. The pharmacy benefit manager was born from a genuine economic necessity. Health plans could not fight pharmaceutical monopolies alone. They needed leverage. They needed an aggregator. But the mechanism of aggregation, the rebate, the formulary, the spread, slowly detached from its original purpose. The tool of cost control became an instrument of rent extraction. The PBM evolved from an agent of the buyer into the sovereign of the marketplace. This story is not merely about healthcare. It is a warning about the architecture of modern economies. Across digital advertising, digital marketplaces, and global supply chains, we see the exact same pattern. The platform, the intermediary, the middleman, they begin as facilitators, reducing friction and lowering costs. But once they achieve critical mass, once they control the choke points, the incentives invert. They stop serving the market and begin taxing it.
They build integrated monopolies where they act as buyer, seller, and regulator simultaneously. The U.S. prescription drug chain is simply the most visceral, life-or-death example of this economic phenomenon. A patient needs medicine to survive. The manufacturer has the medicine, but the transaction cannot occur until the toll is paid in the shadows. The documented findings of the GAO and the FTC reveal a system operating precisely as its incentives dictate. The intermediaries are acting rationally. The integration is rational. The spread pricing is rational. But it is a rationality that requires the suppression of transparency. As the landscape of American healthcare continues to consolidate, the fundamental question shifts. We no longer ask how to lower the cost of a pill. We must ask a much more dangerous question. When the entities hired to protect the market become the entities that own the market, who is left to negotiate for the patient?